Welcome back, everyone. I'm Kayla Gray. Okay, this is day two, and it's going to continue on rolling of the Toronto Raptors Coaches Open House brought to you by Tangerine. All right, remember, and I'm going to keep on saying this to pay attention because after each session, we're going to have a pop quiz, a Kahoot. So make sure you have your phones handy and make sure you're paying attention because we're going to put information up on the screen and you can follow along with your phone. Now, the person who answers the most questions correctly the fastest, you got it. They win. So speed, accuracy, they matter here. And so the person actually with the highest score will be mailed a signed Raptors jersey. Great, right? Okay. As we continue to roll on, joining me in this conversation is not one, but two of the assistant coaches with the Toronto Raptors. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me, Sergio Scariolo and Adrian Griffin. Thanks so much for taking the time, guys.
Oh, our pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I know there's a lot of people that are very curious about this, and this is why I think this is a fantastic topic because we're talking about coaching through change. We all know when COVID-19 hit, things just sort of went to a pause and came to a screeching halt in the NBA. And it meant that players had to go back to their hometowns and do workouts by themselves as best as possible. So, Sergio, I'll start off with you. How was that process like with communication and making sure guys were ready for when an NBA restart was actually going to happen?
Well, I want to start saying that adjusting to different circumstances and to the change is probably one of the most important. Adjust for different countries, for different cultures, for different languages, and I found it challenging, but extremely enriching. So facing a different challenge like this one we had and we still have to do. I think we took it as a challenge, as a possibility, as an opportunity to prove that we can adjust to new situation and try to keep, of course, not the same level of efficiency in our work, because we were in a lockdown situation. Everybody was in his house or apartment. Very different, very different situation from one player to another one. Let's say I would start with, for example, Marc Gasol, with a basketball court into his house and a gym.
Mhm.
Two other, the youngest guy who were living in apartment, where our strength and conditioning coaches had to bring them, tools and devices to allow them to work out. From a basketball point of view, we as coaches we split our group of players into each coach had the two or three players to follow closer, and basically we had phone conversations. We were exchanging text and mails. We were sending them film pieces of our plays or defensive situation from our previous games, asking them to analyze them, to give us an opinion, sending them our view, our feedback. It was pretty nice because all the players were locked in. They were willing to keep participating to the team activity. Let's say even being in a lockdown in their places. So I know that, for example, our strength and conditioning coaches were working with them every day. The psychologists, the dietists, everybody was really in full touch with the players, and I think that was one of the reasons why they kept connected to the team and they kept feeling part of the team. So when we restart in June, everybody was basically ready to go.
I mean, there's something to be said about just how strong the franchise's lines of communications are because there were some very important conversations that were taking place. One, of course, being COVID-19 and kind of adjusting to the pandemic. But, Coach Adrian, there's also a very important conversation around police brutality, systemic racism, anti Black racism. So, I'm wondering during that time, as you are also getting ready for an NBA restart, how did the lines of communication change for those conversations so you can have the capacity as a team to have those conversations with issues that are so personal to your players? And what was the focus like at that point?
Well, I think obviously it was very personal for the players, but it was also personal to us as coaches, and we wanted to support our players, and rightly so, and we wanted to hear their voice, and it
Hmm.
was a great opportunity to really just to watch the leadership within our organization, especially from the players who were taking initiative, who were taking a strong stance against what they felt was injustice that was going on, in our country. And I think it was just one of those things that um, grew to something I thought that was very beautiful, and that was all people of all races were coming together. That didn't matter if you were white, black, Asian, African, Indian. Um, I I think a lot of people were also trying to focus on some of the negativity that came out of that movement and whatnot. But I think there was a lot of positive things that came out of that, and I think the message was clear, and that is we all matter. I think that no one has greater value than anyone else, especially based on the color of your skin or your appearance or gender for that matter. So I liken it as being a part of a team. Everybody on the team has a role to play, and someone
Hmm.
has to shoot the ball, someone has to pass the ball, someone has to set screens. But even though your roles are different, every role is important. There's not one role is not more important than the other if you want to succeed. And I think that's the same way. This is a human, mankind, uh, um, not issue, not a problem, but an issue that we need to rectify and to bring everyone together. And I thought the players and Coach Nurse did a tremendous job of just listening to players and keeping the lines of communication open. And the players took a lot of initiative and a lot of things that they were doing. If it was getting on their own social media outlets and getting the word out, wearing the Black Lives Matter T-shirts and kneeling before the game. So I thought it was a beautiful thing. It's something that I've never been a part of in my life, and I was fortunate to be a part of something as powerful as we witnessed in the last couple of months.
And certainly it's something to be proud of if you are a fan of the game. Naples just feels so far away ago, Coach Sergio, because, that was when the team had gotten together in preparation for heading into what would be the NBA bubble. What was the mood like? Can you walk me through that process and just kind of maybe the lines of communication as everyone was like, well, we're here. Let's get these practices underway. Let's get ready for what will be a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it was great to regroup and see each other after so many months where we just had Zoom calls or FaceTime, whatever. We felt that we still were all together, and we were extremely motivated to restart and to try to do our best to win another championship. I felt from the very beginning that everybody was strongly desiring to get back on a basketball court and start to do what we were used to do. I mean, of course, the beginning was pretty different because we had so many different rules to follow in terms of just one player, or four player, one player for each basket, with just two coaches using gloves, different basketballs. We had to disinfect the frames and the basketballs after every individual workout. Was pretty uncomfortable from a certain standpoint, but at the same time, it was great to get back to the action, to what we love to do, which is basketball. But you're right. I mean, there was a big concern about the virus, uh, raising. I mean, we went to Florida exactly when the number of cases all of a sudden started to raise, and it went really really high. And there was a concern about what all those bad issues which happen in terms of police brutality and racism. So we felt from the beginning that we could um, really feel together, because as Adrian was saying, we coming from Europe, from Asia, from India, from the United States, from Africa. But our team, our organization is so diverse, but at the same time, has a tremendous ability, thanks to our leadership. Masai, Coach Nurse, Bobby Wester, the ability to merge everybody in only one group of people who are working together toward a goal, with a common goal, and being able to even feel a little bit more cohesive and together, because we felt that we were sharing the same values. We were absolutely supporting uh, each other in regardless that the color of our skin, or where we were coming from. I think it was a great feeling, and was a factor which made our team more together and more cohesive, if it could be possible. Having to face these challenges in a kind of a lockdown situation, but this time all together in the same hotel, and back, uh, doing the same things all together.
I mean, Coach Adrian, Sergio brings up some great points, especially when you talk about cohesion. Like before you guys had all met in Naples, it was what, March was the last time everyone had been in the same room all together. We were seeing players on social media and, what they could do with just kind of themselves and the teams that they kept close to them. But I'm thinking of the coaches that are watching right now who might have had some time away from kids that they've been coaching because of the pandemic. How does a coach go about kind of re-sparking that feeling, that spark of cohesion, of oneness with a team after they've spent so much time apart?
Well, I think one of the things that we did in the beginning, and credit this to Coach Nurse, is that we tried to control what we can control. Even though way before we got into the bubble and Naples, every coach was assigned a couple players, and we reached out to those players, even though we were all dispersed across the country. But I think number one, you got to keep the lines of communication open, and you got to really go out your way to keep that connection. If it's FaceTime, even now, like, even though I'm in the States right now, and I know there's a couple players in the States. Last week I drove up to see one of our players and work out, and so you gotta kind of get out get out of the box a little bit, and to be you got to be creative in how you bridging the gaps with the players. So when we got down to Naples, we kind of hit the ground running, because we were already in communication with the players during the pandemic. Our staff did a great job, our medical team and a strength conditioning team. Like, we made sure the players had all the equipment and the resources that they needed to do the best. My son is in quarantine right now. He's in college, and I was talking to him, and
Mhm.
I was giving him the same message. And I said, "Hey, call the strength your strength coaches and tell them to get some weights in there for you, get some bands, get some kettlebells, and so do whatever you can while you're locked up." And then when we went down to Naples, it was a big adjustment for everyone. We were doing the COVID test every morning. I was guilty of forgetting to do a couple of my COVID tests, and I would either be on the court out on the golf course about to tee it up, and I would get a phone call or a text and say, "Hey, you got to get your COVID test done." So it was different, and but I thought the players did a phenomenal job of adjusting to it. Our organization is top notch. They did a great job of kind of preparing us and educating us, and it's change. It was change, and change is different, and you have to know that there going to be some resistance to that. But I think overall, our players were very receptive. We try to make it as easy as for them as possible. Down in Naples, we had a big conference room for the players. Put some TVs in there. They were playing the Xbox and the PlayStation, and we had ping pong. And I won. I won a couple games. I won't hold that from you. I wasn't bad. I had the lefty, unorthodox style, and it kind of screwed a couple guys up. So, and I think I think Sergio was on the bag toss, and so there was a little controversy with one of his wins, but we won't go into that. But we had fun.
So do you don't want to rebut?
You know
We're just
what?
gonna let Adrian stunt.
Nobody was who never. That was unacceptable for the rest of the guy. I understand it. I get it. I get it.
All right. Well, let's talk about the bubble. You guys are now in this NBA bubble. The season has restarted, but as you both had mentioned, there was a lot of focus on what was going on outside. Players were, more than showing up for the communities inside and outside of their bubbles, and the way that they were advocating and speaking out. I was always curious, as a coach, how did you strike, Sergio, that fine balance of being able to coach at a high level but still kind of taking a step back and never forgetting the why while you are also in the bubble?
Well, I think that this is a part of our being a human being. I mean, you are not an athlete or a coach 24 hours a day. You are a human being
Hmm.
24 hours a day. Then there's a time where you are teaching, when you are um, showing drills or correcting players or pushing players. And from a player standpoint, there is a time where you have to be 100% concentrated on what you have to do, because this is your job. This is why you are paid for. This is why so many people are looking at you. You are a role model. You are an example for many people. So when it is time to work, you got to work. And I mean, there is no excuse. If you are able to focus on what you have at hands in that specific moment, and then when that moment finishes, go back being a human being with his concerns, with his opinions, with his values. And I think we did it pretty well. I mean, when we had to work, we were working, and nobody was distracted or was wasting time. But when our workout, our practice is finished, we had plenty of time to discuss, to join little groups, or even in coaches meetings or players meeting, or coaches and players meeting, or even the whole organization, at least the ones who were there, meetings to discuss and to find a common ground, and choose an opinion, choose a line to follow, a position to stand for, a statement to send out. And I think those meetings were extremely interesting, because people were not there being again coaches, players, managers. We were human being, because we were talking about human values, fight against systemic racism, social justice, um, police brutality. There's nothing to see with to with being a little bit higher or lower in the uh, it is that we were all together, all same, persons, many players and many people whom frankly I was not expecting such as a deep and extremely intelligent opinion coming out from they did. So to me it was extremely enriching, and I'll keep a great memory of those meetings where people were speaking with freedom and just letting their emotions and their thoughts come out.
And Coach Adrian, when you think about the bubble, you think about Naples even, that whole span of time thrust you both as coaches into a space that no one could have ever one predicted, but would have really been comfortable with all the tools, but you've still pushed on and made it through and found your way and systems as to how to coach in just such an unusual circumstance. So is there anything that you learned during your time during the restart that you might take into next season?
Well, I think one of the benefits of just being in the bubble and just being around the guys every day is just the relationships that we forge. During the season, in a regular NBA season, it's tough to really sit down and build like these strong relationships with these guys because, you're practicing, after
Mm.
practice, they go their separate ways. And, after games, we hop on a plane and we're on the next city and it seems like we're always on the go. But in the bubble, we ate breakfast together, lunch together, dinner together. We were on the bus together before the games, and then we got on the bus together after the games, going back to the hotel. So we got it was a really great opportunity to get to know the guys in depth. We got to know things that we wouldn't know about them otherwise. Like their family and their interests. I was able to take a couple guys to a restaurant there in the bubble and just break bread, and it was like a family atmosphere, and we really got intimate with the players, and it helped us on the court because we were all we had in that bubble. This is before the players families came, and so we were a tight niche group, and there was only a couple things you can do in the bubble. You could play golf, and I think Sergio can attest to that. Man, he was getting lessons or something because when we went in the bubble, we were together. And then, for some reason, he just started really kicking my butt. I don't know what
You know what?
happened, but
I wish I had become such as a good fisherman as you, instead of becoming just a little
yeah,
bit better golf player.
I think I was.
Oh
I got this
man.
picture. I think I was the bass master in the bubble.
That you see
See
Oh
that?
that?
my goodness. Look at that thing.
Yeah,
The bubble teaching everybody new skills. Next thing you know, you're
yeah,
going to be both teaching your own classes
that's right.
offline. It's interesting you bring up the part of just the feeling of family, and in conversations I've had with players or coaches, this seems to always be true. A player will show up for a coach on the court mostly in the best circumstances when a coach shows up for that player off the court and the ways
Yeah.
that they build their relationship. And I think that is something that we see starting very young is when you talk to young players and people who are just sort of picking up sport, the coaches that always stick to mind are the ones that didn't necessarily teach them the X's and O's, but showed up for who they were as people. So, Coach Sergio, how important is it for coaches watching you today to really put more of an effort into making and building connections with young players?
Well, definitely extremely important because yeah, I mean this is a team. Basketball is a team sport where everybody had different roles, as AG was saying before, different tasks. But we are basically all together, and the more we will trust what we are doing instead of imposing what we are doing, the better we will be as a team. So definitely. I believe that if you listen to somebody who looks a good person, who looks somebody who cares about you, who looks about who seems credible in what he says because he's um, because he has experience on that, or because he took time to think over what he was going to say. I think if we trust with each other as persons, as human beings, as I was saying before, if we do that, probably our work as a basketball team will be better. I think there is no room for ego there. Where I mean, I got to tell you what to do because I am a coach, you are a player. I mean, you have to trust
Mhm.
what I'm telling you. I got to show you why I believe that what I'm telling you to do is be able to create an atmosphere where you feel free to tell me, Coach, I don't agree with that. Well, I when uh, um, when you start to have this kind of a mutual relationship where players respecting each other, but have a chance to let you know your their opinion. That's a great atmosphere. That's a great situation. Of course, you had to work, and Coach Nurse did an unbelievable job to put everybody in a situation where they were feeling free to say what they were feeling. And then again, I mean, one of the most important skills for a coach is to listen, because if you are able
Mm.
to learn how to listen to your players, they will give you a lot of information about themselves as a person, as a person players, and they will make your job way easier when it's going to be time to motivate them and to push them a little bit toward a common goal. So I think listen is a really a major skill for a coach.
And Coach Adrian, along those same lines, team chemistry is something that you cannot fake, you cannot duplicate. How does that team chemistry in a locker room translate to a team success on the court?
Well, just being a former player, I know how important it is to have that camaraderie off the court as well as
Hmm.
on the court. Guys have to get along and they have to respect each other. I've heard in the past that a the best team is a player-led team, but that doesn't happen out of thin air. I believe that leadership starts at the top, and the players are going to model what they see from the coaches and the leadership. And fortunate for us with the Raptors, we have phenomenal leadership from top to bottom, from Masai, Bobby, Coach Nurse. So the players, they're going to mimic and model what they see from us, and so we try to make it a point to act with integrity, high character, honesty, and a lot of these values are transferred over to the players. And we just our players are awesome. I've learned as much from them as hopefully they've learned from me. Just being around Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet and Mark Gasol and Sergio Baca, and
Hmm.
just picking their brain on how they see the game. So I think it's very important to have that off the court. I remember in '06 when I was a player and we went to the finals, you know, it was the players that were saying, hey, we're flying out to California tonight. Um, Curfew is at 1 o'clock. The coaches didn't have to tell us to monitor ourselves. We did it. We took it upon ourselves because we knew how important it is. And I see that same leadership with our players. And they're a unique bunch of group. I think Fred VanVleet, and I've said this, publicly. I think he's going to be a head coach in this league. Same with Kyle
Yeah.
Lowry and Mark
Yep.
Gasol. Yeah.
You're not wrong about that prediction. Okay, before I let you both go, any quick words of advice for the coaches that are watching you right now?
Go ahead, Sergio.
Well, this is a vocational job. I mean, you got to feel it. You got to be willing to make sacrifices for it, to put many hours learning, studying copying, because copying from the best coaches or best players is a big part of this. And I would say that time for reward comes way after time for putting there the effort. This is basically probably in every field of man life or woman life, but especially in a very competitive job like this, you have to be conscious that the frustration will be there. There will be time where you will be alone. You will feel lonely. Nobody will be there to help. You will lose a game where maybe you had no responsibility on the loss, and everybody will make you guilty about that. And you can't stand up and say and point fingers and say no, it was his fault. It was his fault. No, you are a coach. This is why your shoulders had to be that big, to hold that.
Yeah.
you know but at the same time, I remember when my team were, for example, on a world championship or an Olympic game, when I was outside the podium and I was watching my players stepping up and receiving their medals, and enjoying it that deeply, and communicating such as a big joy and big satisfaction to be there. That's the biggest reward. I mean, there is nothing
Right.
better than feeling that you help a little bit to make this group of unbelievable guys together. I remember when we won a championship round down there in Oakland, against the Warriors, where see there the player joy. That's my moment when you can enjoy because you see other people enjoying. That's really the best reward. The fuel
Mhm.
we put in to try to do our best in the next challenge we have to face.
And I would just piggyback on what Sergio said. I believe as coaches, this this is about values. I always urge coaches that I speak to about being a value driven coach. Because the players are going to model what they see from you, and we all aspire to move up. We all aspire. Some of us want to be head coaches. Some of us want to be on the front of the bench, and we all have desire to excel in our craft. But I think if you truly just embrace the role that you have and try to be the best coach where you are and make that role work. We all always talk about the players about accepting your role, but it's the same thing for coaches. You the role that you're given. If you really want to move up and you really want to have success, you have to embrace that role, whatever it is, and no matter how small or how big it is, you embrace it and you give it all that you have, and good things always happen. It's worked for me my entire life, and it's all about the values that we give these kids because they need it. We needed it growing up. They need it, and sometimes you forget that these guys are they're men, but they're young men. And
Right.
they're in their early 20s, and a lot of the things that we learned at a young age, we have to pass it on to them. So I always last thing I've always believed that better men make better uh, basketball players. And that's kind of my coaching philosophy and something that I live by.
Coach Adrian, Coach Sergio, thank you both so much for your time and for stopping by and for just sharing all the wisdom that you guys have today.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
No,
I have fun.
thank
All
you
right,
for
and a
having us.
special thank you to Tangerine because without Tangerine, this event would not be possible. So do not go too far. Stick around, and we're going to be right back momentarily.